supported, are there ways intermediaries can take some of the burden away from taxpayers in reporting and payment requirement? And are the tax advisors enabled to help their client manage their tax affairs, including through access to taxpayer data held by the tax administration? These are some of the key questions which should guide us even as we tailor-make our legislation in this era of digitalization. Ladies and gentlemen, the various international developments in the tax landscape are issues which should command the attention of all of us as tax administrators. While we as CATA may not be able to project a common view owing to the diversity of our membership, what we have done and continue to do is to provide a platform for robust engagement and discussion on some of these issues. To this end, we have helped organize various regional consultative meetings supported by the OECD and our partner regional tax organization. Whatever we make out of the current discourse going out there internationally, the stark reality is that a country cannot protect its tax base by its own self, and hence the need for a collaborative approach. And a word of caution, don't let somebody else collect your taxes, because we are told if you don't collect it in your jurisdiction, somebody else will collect it. That should not happen. Ladies and gentlemen, COVID-19 has weakened our economies and exacerbated our vulnerabilities. The latest OECD published Economic Outlook 2022 indicates that the global economy is projected to grow well below the outcomes expected before the Ukraine war, just at a modest 3.1% this year, before slowing down to 2.2% in 2023 and registering a movement in 2024. That should tell you where we are. Majority of the Commonwealth countries are emerging economies with tax administration grappling with varied challenges. The small island developing states, for example, have been disproportionately exposed to the myriad of global crises in the recent past. The traditional sources, such as revenue from financial services, for those who are hosting financial service centers, are facing additional scrutiny and may as well be facing onerous fate under the current dispensation, where increased reporting requirements are needed. It is true that some countries are presently struggling to implement some of these standards on transparency just to shake off the perception of being considered as tax haven where unscrupulous individuals and entities run their tax evasion scheme. Besides, ladies and gentlemen, several countries have put in place various tax incentive regimes in order to enhance their competitiveness for the foreign direct investment. These well-intentioned policy instruments, these are very well-intentioned policy instruments, but in the ongoing international tax discourse, the measures may run afoul of the anti-tax competition rules currently being formulated under the OECD Inclusive Framework Arrangement. The ever-changing international tax landscape calls for sustainability and resilience in tax administration. This resilience has been aptly demonstrated during the COVID pandemic, where tax administration instituted far-reaching interventions that ensured that the adverse effects of the pandemic were mitigated to the best extent possible. Although these measures were largely emergencies, some countries have extended them into the post-pandemic period, and perhaps some of the measures will remain permanent features in our tax legislation and processes in the years to come. But ladies and gentlemen, it is high time that countries review their COVID intervention tax measures and evaluate how effective they have been. Such reviews may provide valuable signposts of reference on lessons learned should we face a similar catastrophe in future. One key lesson is the convergence and similarity of issues faced by the tax administration. And evidence shows that countries which had a higher trust with their tax administration, with their taxpayers, fared well during the pandemic and made quick recoveries. Those suffering trust deficits are still struggling up to date to plug the revenue gap. So it's a wake-up call in terms of enhancing the trust that we have between us and our taxpayers. At this conference, ladies and gentlemen, we have assembled a range of experts who will be facilitating discussion on the two topics selected. Among these are seasoned tax administrators, tax practitioners, academicians, and industry experts. It is rare that such a rich mixture is brought under one roof in a single event, and I would encourage all of us to use this opportunity to engage fully in the deliberation taking place in the next 4 days. And as usual, your feedback would be of great importance to us. I thank you all.
Thank you very much, Mr. Duncan Onduru. Thank you. Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to welcome Mrs. Zainab Shamsuna Ahmed. I welcome you. And also here with us is the Chairman, West African Tax Administration Forum, and Commissioner General, Gambia Revenue Authority, Mr. Yankuba Dabo. Our next speaker here is a very experienced diplomat. He has served virtually all over the world, but we are very happy he's in Nigeria now. And because he's virtually all over the world and understands the tax administration in most of the countries, he understands that taxation is the price which civilized societies pay for the opportunity to remain civilized. And so it's my pleasure to welcome here the Deputy High Commissioner, the British Deputy High Commissioner to Nigeria, His Excellency Ben Llewellyn-Jones, OBE. Your Excellency, I welcome you to the microphone.
Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, may I stand on all existing protocols. My name is Ben Llewellyn-Jones. I'm the British Deputy High Commissioner in Lagos. Unlike so many people in this room, I am not a tax expert, but I pay tax. Thank you. I'm also a loyal subject of the Crown, so I pay my tax to Her Majesty's or His Majesty's Revenue and Customs. And to show you how loyal our tax paying is, a small anecdote. My father-in-law, who is a very, very loyal taxpayer, received a tax rebate from His Majesty's Revenue and Customs. So he rang the helpline to say, I'm not sure you should be paying me this. So they checked and rang him back and said, you're right, you owe us money. So he checked and he rang them back and said, are you sure? They said, it's twice as much now. He said, do you have any advice for me? They said, you should probably stop calling. And I'm sure all of us are as loyal. And I'm very, very, very pleased to express, on behalf of the United Kingdom's delegation, our gratitude to our Nigerian hosts for generously agreeing to hold SATA's 42nd technical conference in Abuja. And I wish to convey personal apologies from John Swerdlow, SATA Vice Chairman, but who will join us virtually from London. The theme of this conference, tax administration in the digital era, is very, very relevant. We all recognize the opportunities and challenges that digitalization brings to our countries, our governments, to businesses and to us as individuals. The pace of change has been further accelerated by the COVID-19 pandemic, including not only a shift to working digitally, but also leading to a change in the perceptions of how we do business and interact with each other. There is an increasing expectation that government and business services operate seamlessly online, across borders, and are available at any time. The importance of technology and innovation was highlighted in this year's communiqué from the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting in Rwanda, with the renewed commitment to the 2018 Commonwealth Cyber Declaration, and indeed acknowledgement of its continued importance to delivery of the UN Sustainable Development Goals. Digitalization can make a powerful contribution to the economic, social, cultural, and indeed political life of the Commonwealth. It can promote investment, trade in goods and services, the free flow of information, innovation, and indeed fair competition. Of course, as well as opportunities, digitalization also brings with it new dangers, new challenges, and we all have a shared interest in protecting the security of our networks, our data, and our services. Tax authorities have their own roles to play in ensuring that the opportunities and benefits of technology and digitalisation are used to promote economic growth for all. Rapid developments in technology mean taxpayers are increasingly expecting digitalised tax services, while the volume and complexity of data flows increase considerably. There are therefore considerable opportunities for increasing the effectiveness and efficiency of tax collection needed to fund our public services, whilst reducing the complexity and administrative burden and expense for taxpayers. This includes considering how digitalisation can help us address common challenges such as compliance in the informal sector. Meanwhile, administrations are grappling with the skills and resource shortages. The shift to remote working, catalysed by the pandemic, prevents CATA members with opportunities to attract a wider pool of potential employees and to reduce costs. On the other hand, adapting to rapid technological changes is costly and risks being outpaced by new developments, and cybersecurity is an increasingly important consideration. This conference is therefore a valuable forum for sharing experiences, insights, best practice, and current challenges across a range of issues related to digitalisation. We can look forward to sessions from experts within our tax departments, NGOs, academics, and private sector practitioners, as well as the unique chance to discuss what we are hearing with our colleagues from across the Commonwealth. And above all, we shall encourage people to pay tax, not least my father-in-law. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ambassador. I hope the taxes these professionals collect will have been as short as your speech. All of us will have been happy. Let's put our hands together for him, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you. Let me quickly inform you that this event is live on Nigeria's premium television station, NTA. It is streamed live on all social media platforms. And we have all our delegates from 47 countries of CATA that are also joined via Zoom. So it is global, what we are doing right here in Abuja. Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, for those romantics, the poets, and those that love to live in the world of the ideal, they will tell you that the best things in life are free. But tax people will now come in and say sooner or later, those things will be taxed. Our next speaker knows that nothing is free if you need to run a government. He is the Chief Executive Officer and Director General, Inland Revenue Board of Malaysia, and Chairman of CATA, Mr. Dr. Mohammed Nizam Sairi is here with us. Welcome.
Thank you very much for the introduction. Mr. Boss Mustafa, Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Mrs. Zainab Shamsuna Ahmed, Honorable Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning, Federal Republic of Nigeria, Mr. Muhammad Nami, President of CATA and Executive Chairman of the Federal Inland Revenue Service of Nigeria, Mr. John Swerdlow, International Relations Specialist, HMRC, and Vice Chairman of CATA, represented by His Excellency Mr. Ben Llewellyn-Jones, the Deputy British High Commissioner to Nigeria, Mr. Duncan Onduru, Executive Director of CATA, members of the CATA Management Committee, CATA Secretariat, delegates of the 42nd CATA Annual Technical Conference 2022, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning and welcome to Abuja, Nigeria. It is indeed good to see the majority of CATA members present at this 42nd CATA Annual Technical Conference after a long spell of COVID-19, which made international travel next to impossible. I am certain many will concur that meeting in a physical setting and a face-to-face interaction is very much welcome to renew acquaintances and forge new networking at this renowned conference. I also take this opportunity to welcome members logging on through the online platform. Congratulations to the hosts for making this option available so as not to deprive members of CATA the avenue to participate in this conference. As this is our first technical conference in almost 3 years, the last being in Malaysia in 2019, I would like to convey in person my gratitude and appreciation to the CATA Management Committee for appointing Malaysia as the chairman of CATA for the 2021-2024 term during the MCM meeting on 12 November of 2021. I look forward to your continued support in making CATA stand tall among tax administrations as we work collectively to build this organization. Ladies and gentlemen, the 42nd Technical Conference is a long-standing tradition of CATA in uniting member countries from across the globe as we share our knowledge, ideas, and best practices for the mutual benefit of member countries. I believe that it is through this sharing and learning that we are able to expedite tax administration reforms in our country, as we already have role models to which we can benchmark on. For this opportunity to once again meet and deliberate as a united family, I must express my heartiest appreciation to Mr. Muhammad Nami, Executive Chairman of the Federal Inland Revenue Service of Nigeria, and the Government of Nigeria for graciously accepting to host this year's conference in their beautiful country. Having just finished hosting CATA in October last month in Kuala Lumpur, and also the last CATA Technical Conference in Malaysia 2019, I am fully aware of the time, planning, effort, and energy that is required to coordinate and execute a conference of such scale. Please join me, ladies and gentlemen, in giving a big round of applause to our host, Nigeria, and the CATA Secretariat for dedication and commitment that has made this conference materialize today. In spite of our ongoing battle from the after effects of the pandemic, it is therefore no small feat for each and every one of us for being here in Abuja in ensuring the success of the 42nd edition of the conference, collectively as the voice of CATA. Ladies and gentlemen, the theme for this year's conference, Tax Administration in the Digital Era, is a timely reminder for us to re-engineer our tax processes to fit the digitalization era. The health crisis, which took the world off guard in the late 2019 and early 2020, is a stark reminder that in order to remain relevant as tax authorities, we must relook at the way we do our business. With limited interactions during the onset of COVID-19, the pandemic pushed us to revisit the way we interacted with our clients, the taxpayers. As agencies entrusted to safeguard the coffers of our respective nations, it was never an option for us to close shop. Therefore, we had to innovate, and to innovate fast. We could no longer deny the importance of technology. Online services had to be streamlined, help centers had to be upgraded, and new ways of communications, for instance, using artificial intelligence as a chat function, had to be put in place. As we slowly recover from the pandemic and return to a new normal way of life, I believe we all agree the changes brought about by digitalization are here to stay. And if we are to remain relevant, we must embrace these changes and leverage on them as we continue to reform agenda of our respective tax administration. Aside from work processes, digitalization also opens a whole new set of opportunities in broadening the tax base of the country. With digitalization in place, nations will be better able to plug leakages, especially those caused by the informal sectors, the shadow economy, as well as sharing and gig economy. The tried and tested method of yesteryears no longer hold water, and we must explore new ways of bringing these informal activities into the tax net as we seek to be equitable and fair in our implementation of the tax laws. We must be seen to be fair to compliant taxpayers by taking action on those who fail to carry out their tax duties. And digitalization can be one such mode to expedite this notion of building a fair and equitable tax system. We must also come together to address international issues of common concerns, such as the taxation of digital economy, which has taken center stage at international discussions. The end result would be to ensure we are able to collect the right amount of revenue as entrusted upon us as tax administrators. Therefore, I urge all delegates of the 42nd CATA Technical Conference to share and learn from each other over the next 4 days as we deliberate on the topics laid out for this year's conference. Ladies and gentlemen, before I conclude, allow me to once again thank the Federal Inland Revenue Service of Nigeria and the Government of Nigeria for hosting us this year. Thank you to the CATA Secretariat for your unwavering commitment to get us all here in Abuja, Nigeria. And last but not least, thank you to all delegates, without whom this conference would not have been possible. To everyone, have a pleasant stay in Nigeria, and I wish you a fruitful and enriching experience throughout the 42nd CATA Annual Technical Conference. Thank you.
The way the chairman welcomed everybody to Nigeria, I'm tempted to look for Nigerian names for you. You're welcome. Thank you very much. Let's put our hands together for him, ladies and gentlemen. Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, our next speaker is a well-trained tax with highly rated qualifications and professional practicing licenses from relevant professional bodies. He has over 3 decades of practical working experience in banking, auditing, tax management, and advisory. And he has done amazingly well at the Federal Inland Revenue Service. As at the last figure, he has already hit 7.5 trillion, and he says the journey just started. Please join us and welcome here the Executive Chairman of the Federal Inland Revenue Service of Nigeria and President of CATA. Please join us and welcome Mr. Mohammed Maman Nami.
The Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Mr. Boss Mustafa, my supervisor, the Honorable Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning, Haji Zainab Shamsuna Ahmed, the Chairman of Commonwealth Association of Tax Administrators, my namesake, Datuk Muhammad, who is also the CEO and Director General of the Malaysian Inland Revenue Board, the Vice Chairman of Commonwealth, ably represented by Ben Llewellyn Jones, the Executive Director of Commonwealth Association of Tax Administrators, Mr. Duka Unduru, the former Executive Chairman of the FIRS, our Managing Partner, Compliance Professionals PLC, Mrs. Ifeoko Karu, the Director General of NITDA, the board members of the Federal Inland Revenue Service, members of the Tax Advisory Committee, and members of the Joint Tax Boards, chairpersons, director generals, and Commissioner Generals of tax authorities across Commonwealth countries here present and those that have joined us virtually, heads of delegations, invited guests, members of the press, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. It is my pleasure and honor to welcome you all to the 42nd Technical Conference of the Commonwealth Association of Tax Administrators, CATA. The conference brings together tax administrators, practitioners, and the whole of the global tax fraternity to provide solutions to contemporary tax issues. Today, I'm welcoming you in a dual capacity. First, as your host, and second, as your president. To begin with, permit me to thank the entire CATA family for unanimously electing me last year as president. My election is more than personal honor to me. It is honor to the government and people of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. In recent times, there has been an upsurge of disruptive technology innovations in the business environment. These have triggered peculiar issues that tax authorities are grappling with. The business world is in a state of flux. Consequently, while the character of data and its management keeps changing. Consequently, tax administrators are under compulsion to align their mandates with the changes arising from technological advancements. In matching the pace of advancement in technology, tax administrators must remain bound by the laws, regulations, and codes that safeguard the sourcing, storage, processing, and management of data. In diverse ways, all members of CATA have to deal with the challenges that transformational technology has brought to the commercial space and stay ahead of the conversation. As revenue authorities with common political history, the questions then are, how are we faring? What lessons can we learn from each other? It is for this reason that this year's conference has the theme, Tax Administration in Digital Era. The team has 5 sub-themes to enrich the discussions and lay the foundation for stimulating constructive dialogue. The 42nd CATA Technical Conference promises to be a platform that produces a pot of ideas and solutions in a fast-changing world that requires sophisticated strategies for problem solving. Although several innovative solutions to address these issues are emerging, many of the jurisdictions already have several innovative solutions to address them. The conference is the right platform to crossbreed ideas and share experiences we can all learn from. Furthermore, harmonization of tax system is on the front burner of the fiscal conversation in many jurisdictions. It is a reform that must happen for government to plug leakages and show up revenue. Some jurisdictions have achieved this, and they testify to its advantage over the fragmented tax system. Others need to learn how, why, and what jurisdictions that have harmonized their tax system have to share. You may recall that in my inaugural message upon election as the president of CATA, I stressed the importance of strategic partnership between CATA and other tax organizations. I underscored the need to work together, share experiences, and exchange notes and practices, and that our individual development rests on us working collectively to achieve the short and long-term goals of the association. While the COVID-19 pandemic imposed several limitations of the association's ability to deliver on its objectives in 2020 and 2021, significant progress was made in 2022 on a number of fronts. At the secretariat level, the strategic plan for 2022 and 2025 was developed and approved by the management committee, and a work plan was also developed. At the center is the core objective of forging stronger and more beneficial partnership with critical stakeholders across the globe. At the political level, the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting was held in Rwanda, during which Togo and Gabon were admitted as the new members of Commonwealth. Consequently, the President will be sending invitations to the tax administrations of those countries to also join CATA, which means that new members are to be admitted soon. I believe that the strength of our association will be further reinforced with the addition of these two countries. On international partnership, CATA, having realized that we have come this far through partnership, collaboration and engagement, and in line with one of the major objectives I set out for my tenure, which is to expand the scope of our collaboration for improved tax administration, I'm glad to inform you that CATA has been admitted as a partner to the African Tax Transparency Initiative and the Asia Pacific Tax Transparency Initiative. We believe that these programs will further assist our member countries in the implementation of global tax transparency and reporting requirement that facilitates the exchange of information between jurisdictions. Number two, CATA also joined the Asia Pacific Tax Hub. This hub, supported by the Asia Development Bank, has been crucial in strengthening domestic revenue mobilization and international tax cooperation for its members. With this membership, we believe that we will experience more capacity development for countries of that region and ultimately improve revenue mobilization for those countries. Three, the African Tax Administration Forum, ATAF, has been a friend of CATA. Over the years, the two organizations have worked together on some basis that we can equally call ad hoc basis. In order to forge a stronger and more strategic partnership, CATA and ATAF will sign a memorandum of understanding at the margins of this conference. The MOU will seek to provide more opportunities for capacity building programs for CATA members of African continent, ongoing base erosion and profit shifting reforms. In order to assist members in engaging actively in the ongoing discourse around digital economy taxation, CATA partnered with a number of regional tax organizations to organize consultative meetings, workshops facilitated by OECD. Such meetings were held in collaboration with the Pacific Island Tax Administration Association, Inter-European Association of Tax Administrations, Association of Tax Administrations in Islamic countries, Caribbean Organization of Tax Administrators, and the Study Group of Asia Tax and Research Body. Other partnership initiatives were undertaken with ETAF, WATAF, and CIAT under the umbrella of network of tax organizations. We must understand that the road ahead is still long, steep, and doubting. Our challenges only get tougher as we forge ahead because technology is transforming daily, and the trends are novel and uncharted. As tax administrators of Commonwealth heritage, it is fair to assume that our challenges in this regard will have similar identities and similar solutions. It is imperative that we take advantage of the occasion of this conference to share and discuss with one another the challenges we face and the solutions we are providing. This conference will be an avenue to improve our individual capacities as tax authorities, as well as our collective strength as a body. Finally, I invite you to look forward to an exciting time of learning, experience sharing, and networking while enjoying the hospitality of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Abuja is one of the Africa's most beautiful cities. It is boisterous and sophisticated. It is host to magnificent edifices, a hub of diverse cultures that originated from different parts of the country and beyond. You will find the people very friendly and hospitable. So I enjoin you to make the most of this week, just to soak it all in. Welcome home. For home is what Abuja is to all of us. Thank you very much.
I think he has hit the point. Abuja is the Commonwealth of fun sports. So if you want to go to anywhere, we will take you there, and you have very good stories to say. By the time you go back to your countries, the grace in your tongue will not be able to rest. Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, our next speaker believes that taxes are the lifeblood of government, and the only way government can remain in governance is to make sure that nobody escapes. She is the Honorable Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning. It's my pleasure to welcome here Dr. Mrs. Zainab Shamsuna Ahmed.
Good morning, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. While the MC is still thinking of a name to give to the chairman of CATA, I want to join the chairman of the FIRS and the president of CATA to welcome you all to your second home, the beautiful city of Abuja. But first, let me pay my respects to the Secretary of the Government of the Federation, Mr. Boss Mustafa, and also to the Chairman of CATA, Mr. Dakut Mohammed, and all of the council members of CATA, the President of CATA, and the Chairman of FIRS, Mr. Mohammed Nami, board members of the FIRS, members of the Joint Tax Board, professional tax practitioners, members of the Diplomatic Corps, all participants in the conference, in the 42nd CATA conference, members of the press, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. It is an honor and a privilege for me to be here in your midst today and to again welcome you to the 42nd Technical Conference of the Commonwealth Association of Tax Administrators, CATA. Nigeria is glad that this year's train of CATA has come to Abuja, the second time that CATA conference is coming to Abuja. The first one was in 2010, when this same conference was hosted in the beautiful city of Abuja. It is important to note that this conference is coming on the heels of the very successful 7th General Assembly of the African Tax Administration Forum, ATA, which was recently held in Lagos. The choice of Nigeria as a destination for this important international tax events is not by accident. Nigeria has remained in the forefront of the global efforts at finding equitable and lasting solutions to international tax issues. And let me just mention a few. First of all, the long-standing issues of imbalance in the allocation of taxing rights between source and resident jurisdictions, I beg your pardon. Secondly, the information asymmetry between multinational enterprises and tax authorities in developing countries. Third, the issue of base erosion and profit shifting. And fourth, the tax challenges of the digital economy. Over the past few years, the government of Nigeria has committed significant amount of monetary and human resources to champion the cause of developing countries. It is important for CATA and similar organizations to lend their voice with ours to insist that skewed international tax rules should be straightened out for the good of all. The theme of this year's conference, which is tax administration in a digital era, is very apt and it is very timely. Considering that the world had moved away from the brick and mortar model of businesses into past-phase globalized and digital models. Certainly, tax administration's processes must keep pace with changes in the business world. An African adage says, where the hunter has learned to shoot without missing, the birds that would avoid the hunter's soup pot must learn to fly without perching. Since businesses are evolving from the physical presence to virtual place, tax administrations must also shift gear into the virtual realm. I'm hoping that this conference will discuss and recommend solutions to issues that include digitization of tax administration. It is a fact that tax administrations of most developing countries are based on manual processes. In these tax administrations, ICT function is limited to provision of hardware and basic software in support capacity, whereas automation, large data, artificial intelligence, and machine learning such capabilities will enable tax authorities to do e-invoicing, pre-populate tax returns, and carry out automated tax risk profiling and several other functions. Secondly, international tax rules. The current international tax rules are skewed against source countries, particularly developing countries. Painfully, this anomaly in the current international tax rules is again influencing the two-pillar solution of the inclusive framework. We have observed, for instance, that Amount A, profit meant for market jurisdictions, is progressively being chipped away in favor of jurisdictions where multinational corporations are resident. Another example of an anomaly of the Amount A rules is the requirement for jurisdictions to surrender domestic tax disputes to mandatory and binding ruling of an arbitration panel composed and sitting outside of the legal system of the respective jurisdictions. President and Chairman and members of CATA, it is common knowledge that taxation is a matter of domestic law. Despite arising from the interpretation of domestic legislation, should only be resolved within those domestic legislations and by the people schooled to interpret them. The discussion to change the rules must start now. The world must rework the profit allocation rules used for transfer pricing and also the share of taxing rights by tax treaty partners. Nigeria is of the view that CATA is that organization that is best placed to push this dialogue. Also, on capacity development, there are many new things emerging in the field of taxation, particularly taxation of multinationals. Tax administrations must continuously upscale the skills of their staff so that they can effectively and efficiently handle emerging tax issues. As such, tax officers must be trained and retrained on tax technicalities, including new international tax rules and also the social effects of taxation. Number 4, nomad workers. There's an emerging trend occasioned by the digital era, and that is remote working. So an individual resident in one country working remotely for an entity resident in another country. The fire of remote working was given vent by the lockdowns of the COVID-19 pandemic. This is raising many questions, such as tax residency, employment tax, tax nexus for the company, and possibility of local taxes. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, the digital era is here. It is exciting, and it is providing a lot of possibilities. There are exotic products. There is improved efficiency. There is also remote working. However, in all of this also are embedded tax challenges that include problems with identifying, tracking, and assessing taxable transactions, incomes from companies as well as incomes from individuals. Exempt rules are based on physical presence, which render them inapplicable in the digital era. So we must review the rules and make them work. Countries must cast aside their differences or their individual self-interest to jointly develop workable, simple, and fair solutions. Nigeria is committed to working with other jurisdictions and international bodies to achieve a win-win solution. The Amount A proposal being developed by the Inclusive Framework is not achieving consensus because it is not founded on win-win principles. Only rules that promote a win-win solution can achieve the support of all. President and Chairman, as well as members of CATA, let me also conclude by urging delegates and experts to use the opportunities presented by this conference to speak frankly on the issues that I have highlighted and a lot of others that I have not. And also to pay special attention to the issue of harmonization of fragmented taxes systems. This discussion must be underpinned by strong partnership and mutual benefit. I also want to call on this conference to focus on solutions, sharing experiences that have succeeded, and also to apply the success to the tax administration of the digital era. I look forward to the outcome of this conference, and again, join my colleague, the chairman of FIRS, to welcome you to the city of Abuja. Good morning.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister of Finance, Budget, and National Planning. Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, let me also inform you that apart from the NTA, we are also live on TVC News. So TVC, we thank you very much. Hello. Recently, a very naughty person said that a fine is tax paid for doing something wrong, while tax is a fine paid for doing something right. And so, Your Excellencies, I welcome you. Our next speaker, who will be officially declaring open this conference, is a lawyer, politician, management consultant, boardroom guru of considerable repute, and a world-class public servant. Today, he is the Secretary to the Government of the Federation of Nigeria. Please join us and welcome Mr. Boss Mustafa.
the Honorable Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning, Hajia Zainab Samsuna Ahmed, CON, the Chairman of the Commonwealth Association of Tax Administrators, CATA, Mr. Datuk Muhammad Nizam Sairi, who is also the Chief Executive Officer, Director General of the Inland Revenue Board of Malaysia, and other members of the CATA Association, the President of CATA, and also the Executive Chairman of the Federal Inland Revenue Services of Nigeria, Mr. Muhammad Nami, the Vice Chairman of the Commonwealth Association of Tax Administrators, CATA, ably represented by the Deputy British High Commissioner, the Executive Director of the Commonwealth Association of Tax Administrators, Mr. Duncan Onduru, the DG of NIDA. NIDA is the primary agency in Nigeria responsible for our digitalization efforts and certification. The former chairman of Federal Inland Revenue Service and Managing Partner Compliance Professionals PLC, Mrs. Feku Wakaru. Chairpersons, Director Generals and Commissioners of tax authorities across the Commonwealth here present and those joining virtually, heads of delegation, invited guests, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, gentlemen of the press. It gives me great pleasure to welcome all participants, most especially our international delegates to Abuja, Nigeria, for the 42nd Technical Conference of the Commonwealth Association of Tax Administrators, CATA. May I use this opportunity to commiserate with member countries on the demise of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II, who has since been laid to rest. She was a well-loved monarch who added great value to her immediate and international community, and I am certain she will be greatly missed by all who admired and knew her. Let me congratulate His Majesty King Charles III on his ascension to the throne and as the substantive head of the Commonwealth. It is my hope that he will sustain and improve on the legacies of Her Majesty. We as a nation are delighted to have the privileged opportunity of hosting this conference comprising of tax administrations from 47 Commonwealth member states, tax organizations, tax authorities, tax institutes, policymakers, and other special guests around the world. As we all know, earlier this month, Nigeria hosted the 7th General Assembly of the African Tax Administrations Forum in Lagos. It is not coincidental that all these events are happening here in Nigeria now. Rather, we are passing the message that beyond participating in global discourse around issues of illicit financial flows, domestic resource mobilization, environmental taxes and taxation of the digital economy, among others, Nigeria is eager to provide a platform for frank and forthright discussions on issues that have critical implications for all and inevitably impact on the global economy. In addition, facilitating these discussions and being a hub for beneficial interactions of nations afford us the opportunity to emphasize the point that Nigeria is a safe and conducive destination for doing business, and that Nigeria has potentials for investment opportunities. In the face of evolving global and domestic socio-economic challenges, the administration of President Muhammadu Buhari has deliberately taken some strategic steps in creating a conducive environment for business activities to thrive and encouraging foreign direct investment. These measures include the provision of trade and investment incentives, review of tax policies, and legislation to improve on tax certainty and fairness, and implementation of our Ease of Doing Business program, which monitors all indices of doing business in Nigeria with a view to removing bottlenecks that are potentially a clog in the wheel of economic progress and prosperity. While Nigeria, like most countries of the world, is not without its challenges, my message to you is this: come and do business in Nigeria, and I'm sure those who have already availed themselves of the vast opportunities will testify that the benefits far outweigh the challenges. The theme for this conference, which is Tax Administration in Digital Era, is a welcome one, considering the emergence of disruptive technologies. It is no longer news that rapid advancements in science and technology have led to the evolution of communication channels that have reduced pre-existing barriers to trade to a bare minimum. These innovations are tearing down the restraints of traditional trading methods and processes, thereby making the specter of a world market a real thriving proposition. Permit me to mention that the digitalization of businesses coupled with increased purchasing power has meant that the provision of remote access to goods and services has grown in leaps and bounds and will only continue to grow exponentially. The challenge is for tax authorities to seize the moment and ensure that the opportunities presented by technology do not serve as a basis for loss of revenue due to our inability to keep up with the times. The question, therefore, is what should be the focus of tax administrations in this digitalized era to ensure voluntary tax compliance and secure tax revenues? I expect that over the next few days, you all will be answering these questions and much more. Ladies and gentlemen, as much as I would want to resist the temptation of delving into the technical session, as my role here today is to welcome you, let me mention that even now, after the worst is presumed to be over, many economies, especially those of developing nations, continue to grapple with the effects of the global economic downturn occasioned by COVID-19 and geopolitical conflicts around the world, amongst others. This conference presents an opportunity to exchange ideas on sustainable financing for government programs and development initiatives without undue reliance on borrowing and debt financing. Therefore, I trust that you will have a robust conversation and that will come up with useful recommendations that can be used in this regard. Finally, it is gratifying to see that participants could attend this technical conference despite challenges, including travel restrictions. We hope and pray that you will have a hitch-free transit even when you prepare to go back home. Distinguished participants, special guests, ladies and gentlemen, it is now my pleasure to officially declare this 42nd Technical Conference of the Commonwealth Association of Tax Administrators open. Before I conclude, let me urge participants that are coming from different parts of the world that as you have taken the time to visit our nation, we are truly indebted and grateful to you. And there is a lot to enjoy in Abuja. It's a beautiful city. Our people are warm. Our people are loud. Our people are boisterous. Take the warmth and the hospitality and the sunshine of our country when you return. Leave the loudness with us. You can't fit in your country. Welcome to Abuja, and God bless the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
Thank you, Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Mr. Boss Mustafa. And so, Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, this brings to a close the formal opening ceremony. And so this is what we'll do. We'll have a group photograph right here in front of the stage. This will be for all the people sitting in front, the heads of delegation, and our special guests. We'll have that now. And immediately after, we'll have the press conference at the booth outside that will involve the SGF, the Honorable Minister of Finance, the President of CATA, Chairman of CATA, and the Executive Director of CATA. But right now, are the photographers ready now? Okay. Your Excellencies, please, can we rise those in front for the group photograph now?
While the photographs are going on, we'll also have a general photograph outside before the tea break. But for the rest of us, we'll have a general photograph outside before the tea break, while this photograph is going on when we break. Thank you. On this side, near the fountain, we'll have the group photograph for all delegates. Thank you.
And so, while the photograph is going on, immediately after the national anthem, and we close the opening ceremony, my sister from Kenya, Wageni, will be taking charge of events, ably helped and assisted by Mr. Femi Edgar. The two of them will run the event in the next 3 or 4 days, and they will be in your faces, enjoying their voices and their beautiful faces. So it will be a Wageni Femo show. All right, so now that the photographs are over, please shall we all rise now for the national anthem, please? Break, how many minutes do you have? 30 minutes? 30 minutes for tea break, and they'll be back here. Wageni will start the aircraft.
TVC News app today, available on Google Play and Apple Store.
Join me, Precious Amayo, as I bring you news from the epicenter, where it happens and when it happens, staying on top of every breaking story, minute by minute, right at the hour when the city gets busy and just before it sleeps. We're live from every angle with objective insight and analysis. TVC News, first with breaking news.
It's always a great morning on the TVC Breakfast Show.
Thanks for joining us on TVC Breakfast.
With the array of stories that matter and what's behind them.
As you say, the first blow indicates the direction of government.
Tell us what really is going on between your union and the federal government.
Once it's generated, He has
if
to
you don't use it, it's waste.
We are not even sure whether we have a strategy